So let's get this party started. Let's call the City of Milton Virtual Common Council meeting to order on Tuesday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. And is there confirmation of appropriate meeting notice?
The agenda was posted at Dave's Ace Hardware, Piggly Wiggly, and Milton City Hall.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Oh, Bill and Ryan. Bill motion and Ryan seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have an agenda. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Take a second. God bless you. There we go. Okay, and then Larry, do you want to lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
to
The flag
of
of the United
States
of America
and to the
Republic
for which
for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible, and
with
liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all. All right, public comments regarding items which can be affected by council action. Do we have anyone joining us from the public that would like to make a comment?
We have one person from the public now, Vern. I didn't know if you wanted to speak now or wait until the agenda item.
Thank you. Yeah, Vern Jesse. I'm the attorney for JSLB, who is agenda item. Well, this relates to the parking amendment. And if you want me to say something now, I will. If you want me to make a few comments at the time of that agenda item, that would be fine.
And technically at the council level, there is not a public hearing for the ordinance 474. So in my opinion, but it's up to the mayor, the appropriate time would be to speak now, but.
Okay, well, I can certainly do that. Thank you. So I apologize to a few of you because this may, I'll just off the cuff, but it may sound very similar to what you heard at Planning Commission. So I do represent JSLB regarding their proposed mini storage facility in the city of Milton. I've worked with Mark Schrader, who's been great to work with, as well as the city staff, addressing issues related to parking, because in our view, and I think everyone familiar with the issue agrees, current ordinance requires way more parking than is realistic for this type of a development. My clients have facilities in Middleton, Janesville, and either the city or village or town, relevant, I don't know which one it is. But in any event, those ordinances require significantly less parking. The parking ordinance amendment that is before you suggests one parking space per 10 units. Your Zoning Board of Appeals and the Plan Commission about an hour and a half ago both recommended that the ordinance amendment be approved with a 1 per 20 parking requirement. That even is probably more than is needed, but we would certainly be agreeable to that, and I think that's very effective under the circumstances. My client reports that a very busy day at one of their facilities would be 5% of the unit owners showing up. That would be very out of the ordinary, but even at that, I think we'd be well below 1 per 20 units. I think, and don't hold me to it, the Middleton ordinance for this size of development would require 4 or 5 parking spaces, and I think even at 1 per 20, we'd be at about 15, I think, or 20, something like that. So in any event, we're very appreciative of the effort to address this issue. And if you have questions of me, I'm available to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much for your public comment. And we will be addressing this item further in the agenda. And if council has any questions, which I'm sure you do, and I'm sure Mark has some comments too. So we'll go on to item number 5, approval of Common Council meeting minutes. May 19th, 2020.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Approve, and Bill Wilson has raised his hand to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, those meeting minutes are approved. Item number 6 is public hearing, discussion and possible action on resolution 2020-16 regarding curb and gutter assessments for the Elizabeth Street reconstruction project and bid approval.
So this is an item that has been discussed at the last couple of city council meetings. And just as a reminder, we plan to do a reconstruction of Elizabeth Street as part of our 2020 pavement improvement program, which was approved last fall. We're at the process now in which we have received bids and are looking to establish the assessments for those properties that would be affected by this improvement. Howie has prepared a memo and the Director of Public Works report in order to kind of address those various pieces of the process. Howie, did you want to add anything?
No, it's just part of the city ordinances, the assessment policy, and it's up to the city council. If you want to do the assessment, you would pass a final resolution, and Dan has taken care of what the financial situation would be of when it would go on property taxes. And the project did come in under budget. We have received 2 phone calls. One person thought that they would have to pay for the street besides the curb and gutter, and so they were okay when they found out they did not have to pay for the street. And one other person was seeking some way to finance, and Dan gave them some options for that. That was the only 2 out of the list of people that we had that have contacted us. And the past recent practice, I guess for the probably the last 5 or longer years, has been to go by the ordinance and do the assessment, which is half the cost of the curb and gutter replacement. And the project's scheduled to happen probably soon, June or July, and to be finished early in the summer.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this issue? You can raise your hand, or you can ask the mayor to recognize you to speak. I don't see anybody from the public right now.
At this time, I'm not seeing anyone from the public other than our media friends and Attorney Jesse, and there's no one in the waiting room right now to be let in to the meeting.
Is there anybody in the waiting room now? How about now? All right, since there's nobody in the waiting room and we are not visually seeing anybody on the screen, and nobody new has called into our Zoom meeting, I am now going to formally close the public hearing. Mark, do you think that's okay? Attorney Schrader? You're on mute, so we're just going to go ahead.
There we go. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So the public hearing is formally closed, and we'll do our usual process and go through each person on the council to see if they have a question or a comment. And we're going to start out with Devin tonight. Devin?
No questions.
Larry?
No question.
Teresa?
No questions.
Ryan?
No questions.
Linda?
No questions.
Bill?
No questions.
Okay. Then we can go ahead and move on. Does anybody have a motion? Sorry, I looked down. Linda, can you please state your motion?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-16 assessing properties along Elizabeth Street and approve the bid for Payne and Dolan in the amount of $78,885.
I just suggest that those two that'd be two motions, and this one just be limited to the resolution, just so the record's clear.
All right. I'll change my motion. I'll make the motion to approve the resolution 2020-16.
And Larry Lane is raising his hand to second that. Teresa, do you have a question, or are you just resting your hand?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't realize it showed.
Well, the wizard can see everything.
Yeah, I guess so.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So we need a second motion regarding curb and gutter assessments for the Elizabeth Street Reconstruction project and bid approval. Can we do that all in one motion?
You would just need to approve the bid.
Just,
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll move that we approve the bid for Payne Dolan in the amount not to exceed $78,855.
Linda Clark has raised her hand to second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we got that done. The motion carries. Item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 474, amending section 78-1233 of the Code of Ordinances concerning mini warehouse off-street parking requirements. So I think staff will have some comments on this.
Yeah, so many of you heard this discussion at the Plan Commission meeting, but over the last several months, the city of Milton has received a number of proposals regarding the construction of mini storage units within the city of Milton. In discussions with those various developers, and as Attorney Jesse has mentioned in his previous comments, it's come to our attention that the current parking requirements that are on the ordinances within the city of Milton are more strict, I guess, if you want to, depending on if you look at it, than what many other communities have on the books. Currently, our parking ordinance requirement for mini storehouses or storage units is 1 stall per every 10 units plus 1 additional stall per every unit. So in the event that you were to have 300 units, for all intents and purposes, you would need to have 330 stalls. Recognizing that that would be parking overkill in terms of sustainability and stormwater management, you know, we concur with the developers who have brought this to our attention that it's likely that our parking requirements, although at the time maybe made sense, we haven't had any development of storage units in the city for probably 30 years, and maybe this is why. But agree with their recommendations, and in looking at our ordinances, we thought the most prudent proposal would be to simply strike the language in our current ordinances that requires 1 stall per unit, and leave the portion of the current ordinances that say 1 stall per 10 units. So that's what's in the proposed ordinance 474. Since that time of proposing this ordinance, the ZBA reviewed a proposal last week. ZBA is the Zoning Board of Appeals, reviewed a proposal last week that was requesting a variance to the existing ordinance. The ZBA reviewed that proposal and approved their variance request at 1 stall per 20 units, and then further made a recommendation to the council to decrease the parking requirement to 1 to 20. When this was before the Plan Commission earlier today, the Plan Commission reviewed the ordinance and had a lengthy discussion about parking requirements at mini storage units, and ultimately concurred with the ZBA and furthered a recommendation to the Common Council to amend the existing ordinance to remove the 1 stall per unit requirement and reduce the additional parking requirement from 1 to 10 to 1 to 20. So that was their recommendation to the council. So the ordinance on the floor tonight and open for discussion tonight is 1 to 10. But the recommendation from the ZBA and the Plan Commission is to further decrease that requirement from 1 to 10 to 1 to 20. If the council chooses to go that direction, it would likely require us to republish a new ordinance, and that's okay. That's what we would do. But I wanted to make sure folks understood that A, you don't have to go with the 1 to 10. B, you don't have to go with the 1 to 20. You can go with whatever determination you believe is appropriate. But if we do alter from the 1 to 10, it's likely going to require a separate ordinance be prepared and brought back at a future meeting. So I think I hit all the highlights.
So, let's just go down our list again. Bill, questions, comments?
I would be in support of the 1 to 20 ratio. I think 1 to 20 is consistent with the attorney's statement that approximately 5% would be a busy day. And the discussion at the Planning Commission, there was also an indication that parking would be available temporarily in front of the storage units. So the 1 to 20 seems to be very sufficient as far as I'm concerned.
And just to point out, again, I know that Attorney Jesse wasn't making any magic there. If you had 300 units and you had 5% there, that would be 15 stalls. Based on a 1 to 20 ratio, that would be 15 stalls. So it matched. So maybe you are a wizard, but it was quite convenient that worked out.
Linda?
I believe that the 1 to 20 is a good way to go for this. And my decision is really based on the information and the comments from the Plan Commission meeting. They asked all the right questions, and I think that this just makes more sense.
Thank you. Ryan?
I don't have any questions.
Teresa?
No questions.
Larry?
Just a general comment, being on the Plan Commission, we did talk about the issue of auctions being held at these facilities on occasions for people who maybe didn't pay their rent and other situations. And the 1 to 20 would provide what the Plan Commission believed would be adequate parking for those kind of inflated parking situations that might come up. But otherwise, the 1 to 20 seemed a good compromise and would still meet our intention as an order.
Devin? Thank you, Larry.
I would be in favor of the 1 to 20 ratio.
Okay, so then moving forward, do we just want to table this or vote it down? Or Attorney Schrader, what would you suggest?
Well, I guess first of all, you've had your first reading, so you can note that, but I guess there would be a motion to approve the first reading with amending same to provide for 1 space per 20 storage units, which will then require it to be redrafted and go for a public hearing before the Plan Commission, and then back to you. That's by statute, Vern, just so you know that will be the effect, is that this ordinance cannot be adopted today. It will need to go for another public hearing because statute requires the proposed ordinance to go before a public hearing. And if we've changed the ordinance, then it needs to go back for a public hearing.
Yes, thanks, Martin. That came up at the Plan Commission, and we fully understand that.
Okay.
You and I had emails today related to the conditional use permit issue.
Yeah.
And so what was discussed at the Plan Commission was the, I guess, hope, maybe I should say expectation, that the conditional use permit, as well as the ordinance with the 1 for 20 provision, could be on the next Plan Commission and council meeting agendas, and that the appropriate notices would be out so that could occur.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I don't know that they would be on the next council agenda due to the noticing requirement, but they would be on the, we would shoot to have them on the same agenda if at all possible. I'd need to check with our clerk to find out when that noticing would take place. But I don't know that we would have time to legally, I don't think we'd have time to turn it around for our our June 17th meeting, 16th meeting, but I'd have to double check.
And you mean Plan Commission?
Yeah, both items, CUP and an ordinance change.
Okay.
Does
the ordinance change require Class 2 notice, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, so then, yeah, then it would likely be the first meeting in July that those two would run concurrently.
Okay, if you, just
For convenience sake, and it probably just would make more sense because it's all related to the same project, if you get them, all of it on that first meeting in July for Plan Commission and Council, that we would appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's what we would shoot for as well. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Al. And thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so does anybody need clarification on the motion?
So, Mark,
I don't think a motion's been made yet.
Mark, is this the recommended
of a motion? Yeah.
Is this going to be the recommended motion then to approve the first reading and direct staff to amend the ordinance requiring 1 parking space per 20 storage units?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Ryan, are you making that motion?
I am. Yes. I'll make the motion.
And Linda is seconding it then. Any questions? Everybody's clear on the motion and the process going forward? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to sign off the meeting. If someone could confirm the date when those items are on those next agendas, that would be much appreciated. And I hope everyone stays well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Two.
Item 8, discussion and possible action regarding the City of Milton reopening phased plan.
So this is a plan that staff has put together in conjunction with department heads, mayor, and various staff members in order to provide some framework for when we may attempt to resume whatever normal is in terms of operations. And mainly what this is referring to is the opening of public facilities. Right now, a number of public facilities still remain closed. Some are already open. But we wanted to develop this plan in order to have at least a framework in which we could see those various facilities open up, hopefully back to where everything was at one time. This plan has kind of been bounced around a little bit. Originally, we had drafted this with the Badger Bounce Back Plan being the kind of backbone to it. When the Supreme Court effectively kind of struck down the Badger Bounce Back Plan, it kind of caused us to pause for a bit. Then when the Rock County created their Rock County reopening phased plan, we then kind of used that as the backbone. So ultimately what our plan does is it follows the Rock County reopening phased plan in terms of following the metrics that the Rock County Health Department tracks to gauge the virus's spread or decline within the community so we can open up in a safe and effective manner. One of the things that we want to avoid, and that County Administrator Josh Smith has talked about at great length, is having a yo-yo, where we're open for 2 weeks and then we're closed for 2 weeks, and then we're open for 2 weeks and closed for 2 weeks. So we want to proceed cautiously. And the Rock County reopening phase plan provides good scientific data that they track on a daily basis. They have their 10 metrics in which they have a green, yellow, and red designation for those metrics. And as we move through and those items either turn from red to yellow or yellow to green, it allows the plan to continue to move forward. And we would follow that same process using the Rock County reopening plan as kind of the backbone of our plan. Obviously, our facilities are different than what we have in Rock County, and they're different than what they have in Janesville and Beloit and various other communities. So we wanted to tailor the plan specifically to address the facilities that we have in the city of Milton. And if this plan is adopted, our plan would be to immediately move into phase one, which in some of those situations we've kind of already done so in terms of opening playgrounds and things of that nature. But keeping this kind of plan as how we would proceed through the future phases and how employees' work schedules may change and how facilities may open. So I can go through this in a great deal of detail if you'd like to. Otherwise, we can talk about specific aspects of the plan. I think it's important to note that the Milton Public Library adopted a kind of a companion 5-phase reopening plan last night, because the library always has to be bigger and better than everybody else. So they did 5 phases, and that was approved last night by the library board. But we referenced that within our plan document. In looking around at other communities in our region, the vast majority of communities are doing something very similar to what we're doing. And we talked about this earlier. Whitewater's is almost identical in some ways, word for word for us. Janesville is very similar to us. Beloit is very similar to us. And we modeled ours in great deal after the state of Wisconsin. So the state of Wisconsin as an organization is following a similar path. They're continuing to look at the Badger bounce back metrics, but we wanted to make it more localized with the Rock County metrics. So this seems to be the path that that the vast majority of communities, at least in our region, are taking. We felt comfortable with this approach, again, with the understanding that we want to be cautious and deliberate with the safety of our citizens in mind and the safety of our workers, work staff in mind, while still maintaining services. And up to this point, there's really nothing that we're not doing that we weren't doing on March 16th. The splash pad is closed, but it wasn't open on March 16th either. So other than that, for the vast majority of things that we do, it's still the same as it was on March 16th. And I use March 16th as the date that was. March 17th was the safer at home order issued by Governor Evers at the time. So we still continue to provide those services. Staff continue to work their FTE allocation. They may not work the same times that they did in order to stagger schedules, and we would continue to see that in phase one and portions of phase two. But it's important to us that we continue to kind of maintain those, not only essential services, but really all services when we can do so in a safe manner.
Okay, so I will start with Linda. Any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any.
Bill?
Just a shout out to the library and the library board for a very comprehensive plan. I think they thought of everything. It's amazing. And I think the plan itself is good and strong, and I think very defensible. So I'm all for it.
Thank you. Ryan?
No questions.
Teresa? Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
There you go.
No questions. Lots of work for both plans. So thank you.
Time's up. We got to go. I heard the alarm go off in the back, right? Larry, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Devin?
No questions.
One piece that I forgot to mention, and I think everybody's aware of it, it's our plan to reevaluate this on a 14-day basis, similar to what the county does. The county will be making another kind of reevaluation of their red, yellow, and green designations on Thursday of this week. we would likely follow that same kind of path as items hopefully always move from red to yellow and yellow to green. We would track that as well. And we're certainly aware that there's never a one size fits all. And we've even had some discussions as recently as this morning about, okay, are there areas that, we may change as we move further into this? And that's the challenge of this is, nobody wants to be stuck in phase 1 until Christmas. Nobody wants to be stuck in phase 2 until Christmas. We're hoping that we can kind of get through this. But in the event that we are stuck in phase 1 for a long period of time, we plan to revisit this every 14 days. So is there changes that we can make to continue to kind of expand things in a safe manner? That's our goal.
And I also want to commend the leadership staff for all their input and the employees for adapting. It's very challenging to have this environment of chronic uncertainty, because I think it's chronic now. It's been going on for a long enough time. And that certainty doesn't, you can't bring certainty into situations where there is uncertainty, but at least we have a structure and a framework in which to evaluate and look at the situation. And that's probably the best that we can do right now. And we always welcome employee and staff and council input on these things. It's good to have different perspectives, and all the municipalities have had to develop some sort of plan, something that we didn't know we would be doing or trained for, or could have anticipated even just a few months ago that this is what our lives would look at. So I just want to appreciate everybody's input and support, especially of the council, because I think that's important for the employees to have council support as they adapt and navigate, and really have done an excellent job of providing services, because you really would not know that we're in this transition phase, because all services have continued, including paving the path when I want to walk on it in the park.
Yeah, that should be done now.
So is there a motion to recommend following the City of Milton's reopening phase plan? Devin, are you making that motion?
I will make that motion.
Thank you. And Larry, I see your hand for a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We've got the plan. And here we are on to general items already.
Fast.
We're not.
Yeah, we are. No, I said, wow, it's fast.
I'm like,
Sorry.
oh no, I'm out of
Forget
sync
people can
again.
see me.
Yes. Okay. So I'll just go through. Devin, anything for general items or committee reports?
Nothing that comes to mind at this point.
Okay, Larry.
Nothing.
Teresa.
Just the fire commission. We had a meeting, and a lot of it was kind of catch up to get some things done that had been out there, dealing with some people's insurance coverage. And one thing that we had to deal with was working on starting to talk about needing a new ambulance. When we start to rotate the needs of changing our vehicles, that is one thing that's up for this year. So it's obviously a very expensive item, and we're going to have to talk about it for the expense on the city's end as well on the township. So that will be coming up for a discussion item soon.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the big items has to do with the Memorandum of Understanding between the township, the city, and the Janesville police department or fire department. And we will be bringing that back to the city as well, and to see if we're going to continue with it, with that agreement as is, or if we're going to be making any modifications. If we're happy with the way it's working together with those three parties, if we're getting what we feel like we should be getting, or if we want to modify it in any way. So if you have any questions about it at this point, I mean, not tonight, but if you feel like you have questions about how things are running, feel free to ask any one of us, and we'll be sure to bring those to the table. So.
And Teresa, is this something that you do regularly, is review that agreement?
You know, interestingly enough, you know, we've had three different captains or chiefs over the last, 3 or 4 years. And so it has been reviewed. We haven't made any changes since 2017. It's been the same document when it was originally written, but it's been reviewed to ensure that people are comfortable with the way it was originally written. And I think now it is being looked at to determine whether it really is still applicable. Is it still working? And is it working to meet the needs of all three parties?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, because I think that it's important to know that this the Fire Commission has been very diligent about continuing to look at that agreement on a regular basis. And so I'm happy that that still continues, and appreciate that. Ryan, anything from you, committees or general items?
Historic preservation meets tomorrow. First time in a couple months. Otherwise, nothing else.
Are you Zooming?
Yep.
Linda?
I don't have anything.
Bill?
Nothing.
Staff reports. Howie?
Not a lot out of the ordinary. They did redo the playground surface over at North Goodrich Park. So that's done. It looks nice. It's got new sand, new mulch. Otherwise, they're just trying to keep up with all the mowing and just doing the general work.
And the merry-go-round is for sure fixed.
The merry-go-round has new sand, new bearings, and is fixed.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we can blast some kids off of that now.
We can risk our lives again.
Yes. Yep.
Ashley?
Well, Bill, thank you for your kind words on our plan. I really appreciate that. We have about 350 curbside pickups in the last month or so. Starting Monday, we will be expanding our curbside hours and kind of letting some people in for computer appointments. So that's kind of our next step, and we'll go from there. And our summer reading program starts June 15th.
Thank you. Chief?
Not too much tonight, but if you think there's not enough going on yet, we're back into a stormy night, so keep your weather devices handy. They're looking pretty nasty up north, so they should be on their way probably after dark, which always makes it a little more dangerous. So keep an eye on them.
I'll be looking for a basement tonight later if anybody wants to volunteer. Let's see.
There's actually no tornado, or not much of a tornado threat, so you should be okay then.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. It's always nice to be reassured. My plants might just fly through my window or something.
Minor detail.
Mark?
They started the relocation of the sewer main out by the interstate along Newville and Pine Road this morning. That'll take 2 or 3 weeks to complete. And the Elizabeth Street project is going to start end of this month and it'll finish in early June is what the contractor informed me of here yesterday afternoon.
Okay, Dan, the money man.
I've taken a few questions from, because there was some good PR in the news last week about the $200 million that was allocated to local municipalities and counties. The city of Milton's portion is $93,000, and literally I had heard comments, what are you going to spend it on? It is actually a reimbursement program. So if you get questions wondering what we're going to spend the $93,000 on, it's all reimbursement stuff related to COVID. And the chief and I had a good conversation the other day, because it has to coincide with the FEMA grant, because you can't get reimbursed by FEMA and get 100% reimbursement from the state. So we'll be working on trying to figure out how to coordinate those efforts. But it isn't just free money from the sky for new projects or initiatives, if people ask.
Okay, well, I'll take my wish list back then.
No new cars.
No new cars. Darn it. Inga.
We're going to be planting 2 of the raised garden beds at the library on Thursday and a pollinator garden. So I'm excited to see the Story Gardens project start having some pieces come together. And like Ryan said, Historic Preservation's meeting tomorrow night.
So who is doing the gardens? Like, is that your committee that's doing it, or?
Yep, the Story Garden subcommittee. So Barbara Benlin, she's going to be there and helping do most of the planting for the raised garden beds. That was interesting. And then I assume Ashley and I will throw some seeds for the pollinator garden. I don't know that's. I think that's it. I think that's all we have to do.
Throwing seeds, okay.
Yeah, we'll look at the instructions first just to make sure, but pretty sure it's going to be that part's going to be a pretty easy endeavor at least.
We're excited to see what grows out of those seeds. Al?
Well, now that we have the reopening plan set, we'll see what the world brings to us. But one thing I talked about with staff this morning, that I think is germane to that conversation. It was interesting. I had a conversation with a citizen who had asked me if we were going to have dates in the plan, dates as to when we would be in phase 2, dates as when we went to phase 3. And we had a good discussion as to what do dates mean and what happens if those dates don't match with what's going on in the world. And I asked him the question, I said, are there services that aren't being provided right now that you believe should be provided right now? And his response was no. In fact, I'm surprised at the fact that really nothing has changed. Had he not been kind of tied in, paying attention, he wouldn't know that anything was different than what it was. And he said, he was looking for a date as a largely symbolic gesture to the folks who want things to return to normal. And I certainly can appreciate that perspective, and I'm right there with them. I wish I could say, on August 1st, things are going to be back to normal. But as we've talked about, and many people I'm sure have listened to or read, I don't know that normal will ever be normal again, at least how normal was back in March. But I took, that comment that he made as a compliment, whether he intended to or not, I did. That, for folks who are just kind of going about their business, they wouldn't even know that anything changed with the city. They still see the public works people out there doing their jobs. They still are able to, pay their bills online and get requests via email. They still see the police officers doing their hard work and the firefighters doing their hard work. So I took it as a compliment, and, we're still doing business every single day as if nothing has changed. The only thing's changed is that we're doing it a little differently. And so, I thought that was a good sign. And I echo what the mayor said about, I appreciate the staff's involvement in these various things that we've done. They've been challenging. They haven't been one size fits all. And each department is different. As Ashley has noted, she gets 5 phases, you know. Howie's department is different. Scott's department is different. City Hall is different. And there is no one size fits all. And if we could be all things to all people, we would. And but we have to try to kind of fit it, right size it to Milton. And I think we've done as good a job as we could up to this point, and I know we'll continue to get better. That's all I got.
So I did want to just say something about, just briefly under general items, that the death of George Floyd, that has been impacting our entire country and our state and our county, and really everyone. You can see that it's been impactful. And I didn't have anything on the agenda, so I'm mindful that I don't have anything on the agenda, but staff and I have been working on a statement that we will release, and I wanted to make you aware that other municipalities in the county, we're working on a resolution to be put on our agendas, so that resolution will be coming for your review at the next council meeting. So I just, I want to acknowledge that not only do we have a pandemic, but we have a grieving country that has a lot of unrest right now, and it's very challenging. So, we're all navigating through that as well. And I also forgot to put on breakout rooms on the agenda. So we'll do breakout rooms next meeting, but that does not mean that you're absolved from team building or trivia questions, because I know that's why Teresa wanted to rush things along.
Great.
So here we go. Here's the question. Because of the rotation of the Earth, if you throw an object, it will go further if you throw it in what direction, and do not Google this. So the guys don't get any kind of sports advantage this time. And lucky it's really a multiple choice. Just the common 4.
Are you going to take a poll?
Down.
Or?
Should we take a poll? Let's do that. Let's do that.
Does it depend on the velocity you throw it at?
No, it doesn't, according to the answer of the trivia question. So, so I'm just going to write down the 4 directions as I recall them: north, south, east, and west.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go through everybody then. Howie, what do you think?
If you're a flat earther, you just drop it off the edge. But otherwise, I'll say throw it to the east.
Okay. Ashley, before you Google it, and you're so smart.
West.
Linda.
I'm going to say east.
I really like how we're so sure about this.
Direction of the jet stream.
Hey, Dan, could you not drop hints, please? I'm going to mute you. Dan, since you're so anxious.
I'm guessing east.
Larry?
I'm going to say north because of the magnetic pull.
Okay. Teresa?
North.
Bill?
Boy, the north is intriguing. Northeast is even better.
Yeah.
Thank God we don't have to choose between those two.
Yeah.
It has to be a point of the compass, huh?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. And I make the rules.
Yeah. I'm going to say east then.
Okay. You know, so far the East is winning out, if anybody's keeping track. Devin?
I am going to say west.
Ryan?
I'm gonna say west as well.
Al?
All things remaining constant, I'm going to say the west.
Inga?
I want to say the South just to give it some love, but I'm going to go with the West.
Let's see. Chief?
I'll go with east.
Mark? Okay, Mark. All right, I know which Mark I'm thinking about. Is it Mark C or Mark S? What is the middle initial for Mark Langer?
E.
E. Not even close. Not even close.
Marky Mark.
Marky Mark. Now I'm going to remember it. Mark E.
I'll go east.
Okay, so as far as I can tell, the person with all the degrees hanging behind him has not shared the direction yet.
That's right.
Mark is that?
Mark S. Because I don't know Mark's middle name, but I guess that's the goal for next time.
I'll say west.
Okay, and everybody has...
You got Kim.
Kim. Oh, Kim?
I'm thinking, well, if Mark Schrader said west, and he's the man with all degrees, I'm going to say west. I'll piggyback.
Well,
I would have said west anyway.
I just have to say, I think degrees are overrated. However, the answer is west.
Wow.
Really? Really?
And I have no explanation. Like what I told you is because
Well, I think
of
if all things are created, all things are held constant, and the Earth is rotating to the east, if you throw something to the west, and if you're only considering distance, it's going to the Earth is going to turn in the same direction to decrease the distance. If all things are constant, there's no wind resistance or air movement or anything of humidity or anything of that nature. Just makes sense, I guess, if you're going to throw something in the air and it's turning underneath it.
The ball already has velocity turning to the east with the Earth's rotation.
I mean, if you really want to,
yeah, but the Earth is moving, but then it would be going like it'd be going at this. They'd be going in the same direction, thus decreasing
the distance it goes.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
About distance, not speed.
Gotcha.
distance. Okay, Marky Mark, he has a comment.
I think if the velocity of the ball is the same, that makes a big difference. But if you want to get into the physics, we can do that after the meeting, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Well, okay. So I do think there should be a follow-up email with formulas that include letters and numbers.
Got to be something with Planck's constant or something's got to be in there. I'll figure it out.
If the ball's bigger, then the magnetic pole would be stronger.
I can guarantee
the ball's made out of metal.
Go up further in the 90s than no matter which direction it was going. Than any of us combined.
There you go. The answer's probably in there.
Notice I knew right where it was. I knew right where it was.
I want you to know there was no collusion between Al and I.
Okay.
I just looked up trivia questions for first graders. No.
Boy.
No, what I did look up is what are popular trivia questions. And you could have got one about avocados, so just thank me on that. Or artichokes or something like that. All right, so we're learning every day. We're setting a good example for our young people in the city of Milton.
Mm-hmm.
So proud of you all. Our next meeting, which will require you to learn about breakout rooms, is June 16th, 2020. Are we just having 2 council meetings in June? Why is there something
No,
about
that's a good
third
point.
one?
We do have a special meeting on June 23rd. If you think back to when we had the discussion about reducing the alcohol license permits, we also wanted to give them the longest possible time they could in order to pay those permits. So we will have a special meeting on June 23rd to address that. And then Dan, there's one other item on that agenda as well, right?
I had written down
You're gonna do the-
anti-harassment.
I
We
think-
don't have that now?
Oh, a training?
Yeah, we're not having the anti-harassment training.
I don't know yet. If we're still virtual, then probably not, but maybe we can do something virtually too. I'm still in communication with CivMec to kind of see what that looks like.
But we do have a meeting instead on the 23rd?
Yes.
Right, correct.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
For
Yeah.
sure a meeting.
At
And-
what time?
We can
Well,
do it at 6.
I have an eye appointment at 5.
We can do it at 6. I mean, that's fine.
And if I'm late, Bill will take over. So Bill will have to do team building.
Dan, I could have swore we had something else on the agenda. We can talk offline, but
I knew there was something we had talked about. I don't remember what it was though.
It was a possible public hearing.
Oh, for Janesville Street.
Yeah.
oh, because of the, yeah, okay, yep. That's possible.
Okay, so keep that date, do the save the date, but we will see you June 16th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn? Linda and Bill, they have Netflix that they want to see tonight. All those in favor? Are we all, is it just a consensus now?
I said aye, so.
I didn't raise my hand.
All right, the motion is approved and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Be safe out there, everybody.
Be safe. Thank you.